Good morning, folks. Actually, it's about 5:30 in the morning, and I'm now on to the adventure part of this show. I'm going to try and move that over. I think sometimes utilizing like a clamp and paper towels. I don't use a palette, as you can see. I go straight out of the tube. Some artists like that, some artists don't, but I do. So, and now it's on the individualization of these paintings. Now, how's that happening? Well, you can kind of see I got a similar look. All of them. Let me see here. There you go. I'm trying to look here. So everything is kind of on the same. That makes consistency. When people look at work, they look at the consistency of it much rather than the just is it an animal? Is it individual? Is it what exactly is it? And also you have to think about sometimes. You have to think about when you're looking at this stuff, is the artist in there? So I always sit there and I'll work a little bit, and you can see I'm looking at my work an awful lot, which I always do. That comes from instructing, teaching, and just basically doing it. Let me see here. I'm looking for that other component, which is right there. There we go. So, and all I'm doing is just the build up of those colors and just trying to get the image. There we go. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is I've done my sketch, all that kind of stuff. And I'm actually in a small brush. My previous brush was this one. So laying in all the groundwork and all that kind of stuff, and then I moved to a smaller brush. Now, some people, they agree with that. A lot of people, they want to go to the fine brushes. I don't necessarily like doing that, only because, you can lay in so much more groundwork on a painting than you can when you're using a big brush. And in my case, it's like now I'm just trying to establish some things. And it's a step-by-step process. It's not something that, you're going to start off going, oh, I'm going to finish this way today. Sometimes it's more about just laying a few things. See this right here? I'm going to come in here like so. And it might just be establishing some lights and darks, all that kind of stuff. You might just go, I might just want to scrape across there to darken that side up. And that's something that, you have to be willing to adjust your painting style for that. Because see, right now there's, on my reference, there's not really, you get a shadow side, but you don't get a really dark side. And since I'm more of a contemporary painter than anything else, I have to make sure I establish that stuff too. And now it has more of a dramatic feel to it. Type thing. So, as you can see, now it has my lights and darks on there. Now, also I work opposites. So like in the case here, I work the really dark color. So I'll go and do a light color, but I won't use a white. I'll probably use a orange or a yellow, and that'll actually make it kind of nice. So it kind of they all started off kind of like this. Okay. Now let me see, I gotta find that picture. Oh, it's over here. So I'm going to set that here like this. I'll see if I can turn that a little bit so you can see it. Okay, this one has more direct lights and darks. Okay, so by using my small brush, if I wanted, what I could do, I could come in here and just darken it up. that specific dark side. Sometimes that works. Well, I would say for the most part it continually works, because that's kind of what happens. And what most people make a mistake is they start looking at they look at the fur as its own color, when really it's its own color, but it's on the dark side of the shade, dark side of the head. So, I can come in here and I'm going to come this way. And believe it or not, I've got some of the sketch still here. So, and you got to remember, when you're also working small, you can't think of detail the way you do when you're working a large painting. Large paintings, you actually put in detail, because if you don't, it will look unfinished. Small paintings, though, when you're doing this way, if you put in the detail, then the painting looks flat. So the object of the game is, what detail can you leave out? And what detail can you leave in? And you have to think about those things the entire process. I'm going to come in here. And some of it's pretty obvious. When I come in here and do this, I know I'm just dropping in some shadows. So you can kind of see that happening. And I haven't really loaded my brush with new paint. Basically, I'm using the paint on my paper towels. So if you want to try that, go straight out of the tube. Remember, you're mixing, the eye mixes the color, not the brush. The brush just applies it. The human eye picks everything up as toward whether it's going to be a good mix or not the other way around. Too many people, they decide, well, the eye, we're not, well, I think what happens is, because we were trained, we look at it like, well, if I want the human eye to pick up, say, green, I've got to use green. Instead of saying the human eye likes curiosity. It likes to be able to look and imagine things and work out the problems. We don't realize we're doing that, but if we take blue and yellow and we mix them slightly together and let the viewer mix that color in their imagination, we've got them. So that's the reason why you see me using the colors I do all the time. I like the viewer to basically kind of finish the painting off a little bit. I don't want to be that. I just think we don't give people enough credit when it comes to that. You got to remember that the average person sees and actually looks at between 5,000 to 7,000 images per day, depending on their use of technology. In my case, it's like maybe more. I do get stuck on, as you guys know, I'm pretty vocal on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So, it's not always the smartest thing to do, and I get some people on there who have some contention and stuff like that, so I don't care. I made a comment about, how the Jewish people kind of killed their own Messiah, because he was brought in trial in front of Pontius Pilate. And Pontius Pilate just washed his hands of the entire situation. He goes, I want nothing to do with this. If you're going to kill your own king, you kill your own king. I don't want anything to do with this. If he is a God of heaven, I don't want to be held accountable for that. So he turned him back over to the Jewish people, and Jewish people demanded the Romans string him up because they wanted nothing to do with him. So so who are they waiting for now? They've already took him out. Could it be when he rose 3 days later, they kind of said, whoa, hold on, what did we do? I don't know. So anyway, I made a comment on that, and boy, all the nutballs come out and start, and they just kind of start. So Now, one thing you're also seeing me do, this is the thing that, you know, we do as artists, is I'm looking here more than I'm looking here. And that also, I notice when I'm teaching people when they're first learning, they will look here and they'll look here and they never look back to the reference, always stuck here. And then they wonder why their painting is all messed up when they're done. It's like, well, and I'm still, this is kind of still the underpainting stages too. So just keep that in mind when you're working. You know, you can kind of see he's there, but he's not really there yet. And what I like about the camera is it kind of works on it a little bit, makes it established, and all sorts of things. So I'm gonna set that back here on top of the frog. Okay, let me pull this because that was the right distance. Okay, here we go. Again, you know, put my reference here, and this one actually is pretty. This one actually has always been kind of. I've done this a few times. I did this as a 24 by 24, and I've enjoyed it. So I'm going to come in here. Obviously, a dark area. Sometimes it's nice just to work. And these things will change also. So one thing you want to keep in mind is if you're working an area, it's going to change because just by the nature of what you're doing. Now, and you got to remember, I'm going to be putting some other colors over top of this. So if it looks like it's gone way dark, it probably has, but that's the whole purpose. I want that blue to show through. That's the reason I'm using kind of a scumbling technique here. Okay, now back here we do know that that's completely dark. And everybody, if you're looking at this like, wow, you're so talented and stuff like that, I want you to think about this. I've done this for 30 some years. So that's a huge difference. I mean, it's not like it's, you know, it's not like there's, after a certain amount of time, yeah, you're using talent to manipulate things and you're using creativity, position, and stuff like that. But we never start off that way. We always start off as a skill, figure out how to use our brushes. And then after that skill, what winds up happening, then we start getting in tune to it. Wow, I can manipulate this. I don't like using normal colors because I feel we're smarter as kids than we were as adults. Okay, that's the reason why my color palette is the way it is. Does that give you a little insight that the reason why I'm a crazy nutball? When it comes to pissing people off. Notice I stayed away from this part of the head, but I'm going to come in here, wipe my brush a little bit. I want to darken that up a little bit. I want to take this up here a little. I don't want to take too much. I want to come here. I mean, every single thing I do when it comes to these animals, there's always something really unique to them. Okay, brush in the water. You can kind of see from there to there. So they're there. I'll come to this one. Now notice I'm not switching colors, I'm not switching anything, I'm just moving along with the process. This helps the work move along, it helps it like speed up, it helps it like I can get these things done in and out, and then everything looks consistent with every other painting. And that's the one thing that young artists have a problem with. They do all these work individually, and they don't understand why they haven't unified their skill sets yet or unified the process, so nothing looks like the same artist did it. So when I'm educating young artists, what I do is I say, do 10 paintings, walk down the line. If you like your process, break it down. You can only do that by assembly line painting. They get upset because, oh, well, that's not creative. No, that's actually learning how to be creative, because then you're learning what to use, what to do, and how to do it. Most people think that the term creativeness or being talented comes from the just inherent ability that when you see them, when you see me paint, wow, you're so talented. No, I've been doing it for 35 years. That's the difference. I mean, so when you see somebody who looks like they've mastered it, and after 20 or 30 years, yeah, you pretty much mastered your craft. Um, you want to think about that before you say, "Oh, you're so talented," because how long have you been doing it? Well, 35 years. I look at it like a master carpenter, a mechanic, um, anybody who's been at something for a very long time. You'll find that they have this almost intuition about something that goes wrong. Okay, and you're sitting there going, "Wow, you're amazing. How did you do that?" And they don't say anything. They just look at you like you're an idiot. Well, they're looking at you like an idiot because basically what winds up happening is they, in their infinite wisdom, have spent 20 years or whatever figuring out problems, and it's a problem-solving skill. It's not a, when I look at it, it's a problem-solving skill more than anything else. So, and artists do get kind of a blown out sense of identity because they've done it for so long, and then all of a sudden they start believing the BS that's, "Oh, you're so amazing, you're such a great artist, you're this, you're that." It's like, if you break it down to skill sets, it makes perfect sense. If I meet amateur artists and they tell me they've been at it for about 20 years, my question is, why are you not trying to market and sell? You've been at it for 20 years. "Oh, well, I'm not that good." Well, hold a second. Yeah, you are. You spent all this time learning how to do this kind of stuff, and then you're doing it, and then you talk to me, and you use the term artist with me. Now, the term artist to me is something different. It's like when you use terminology. If somebody tells you they're a cook, "Well, I cook." "Well, okay, which restaurant?" "Oh, no, I cook at home." "Oh, okay." So production, consistency, everything is individual at home, where in restaurants you have to make it exactly the same every time. Okay, and you're not making it once, you're making it 500 times a day or 500 times a week or 500 times a month or whatever type thing. So that's where if you see something so amazing and they're moving so fast, you can attribute it to what I call deep practice. And so I base that on a gentleman by the name of Daniel Coyle. And he is the one that when I first got in, when I was trying to figure out how people learn, it was before I started really teaching. And a lady by the name of Dana Kobe had this book called The Talent Code. And she let me read it. And after I read it, I finally started figuring out why, because I moved out of Santa Fe and I was still having problems figuring out why people learned the way they did or what the lack thereof was something. And it explained everything. It really explained everything. So I was very happy with the end result of that. Okay, there we go. So you can see it. You can't really see the blues in here. So it kind of shows it. Let me see. Move. Okay, there we go. Okay. I'm going to do this here. There we go. Last one. And then I'm going to call it a day. Go back to watching portrait arts the year. Okay. And FYI, when you see artists where they got work like this, I tell you what, they've already traced it down. They've already transferred it down type thing. So you can pretty much guarantee that it's a done process. Okay, now in the picture, I see the eye. On my painting, I see the eye. The problem is if I paint the eye will stand out and it won't blend in with that. So you cannot do the detail on the eye. I got the eye over here. So if I come in here right now and I do something like that, and I sleeve it, we feel like we're looking at an eye in the background. Okay, we feel like we're looking at that eye, but it's all shadowed. I wipe my brush. Sorry. And I'm sitting there. And then this eye over here, I'm going to come So now we have eye on both sides. But I use very little work. Now, when you do this, this is not based off of this size. This right here is based off the information I know when I work really large. When I work really large, the detail has to be there. When I work small, I do an impression of detail. And that impression of detail helps it so, you know, it looks real in your eye, but by just definition is actually just an impression. I will put this in here. Wipe my brush. I'll go down a little bit. Nice, like. And I haven't really loaded any more paint off of this hardly. I basically have just done it in there. So I'm going to come in here, hit my dark areas first. Like I got some really dark areas here. I'm going to come here, here, and then I just use whatever's left on the brush and I scrub it in. Come in here. I'm going to come. And I like the fur. The fur is kind of cool on this one, on this guy here. And some of it's color. So what you want to keep in mind is that even though this is a light color on this side, the value here is that same color just with a color over top of it, or basically a shade over top of it. So that's what you want to keep in mind, that when you're doing these, everything's an impression much more. And I'm just going to come in here. I'm also blurring my vision. I'm going to come here. And all I'm really doing is establishing these lights and darks. And I'm using a dark, so my next color will be a light color. It'll be a warm, and it'll be light. And again, if you see my movement I had, where am I looking most of the time? I'm actually looking at my reference more so than I am my I'm looking at my reference much more than I am the actual painting. Because if you'll notice something, that my eye's here, I look up, I work. I look down. Now, how many problems do you think that can actually cure by doing that? So if I come in here and I do this right here and I say, okay, how many problems am I solving by studying my reference much more than I do? Okay, now see, there we go. So you can kind of see it happening. Now that darkened up, but see, it's not really that dark. If I pull it in close, you can kind of see these colors. So anything I put over top of that will drop these shadows down as shadows and bring the light putts even more. It'll actually impact the outside painting. But that's also another reason for using color. When you're used to using color, now if I look at this coyote, okay, let's look at this guy, okay, or wolf. I think this one, I don't know, you guys have to tell me sometimes. Sometimes I get them mixed up because the heads are, usually you can tell by the snout or the muzzle. This one here, it kind of reminds me of a coyote, but could be a wolf because the way it is, and he's all fuzzy here. But when we use color on paintings, we impact the painting with color and blend it to how it physically happens in space, much rather than how we imagine it. And how we imagine it is usually off a color wheel. And color wheels to me are a misnomer because they show you the mixes, but they don't show you how it applies to directly how things happen in space. And how it happens in space is, it's like me taking this canvas right here, and I go like this. This is closest to me, this is furthest away. Okay. Now anything with red in it, it's going to pull things forward. Anything with blue in it's going to push things back. This goes with textures and values. So the first thing is just establishing how color works. So if we split it into 3 grids, it'll work. So if I put red, solid block red here, solid block blue here, that's my furthest points. If I go in the center, that's going to be purple. So I put that there. If I go to the center of this between purple and red, it's going to be orange. If I go between purple and blue, it's going to be green. If I take, because I know orange and yellow, red and yellow make orange, I'm going to put my yellow here and red here. Purple here. Then I'm going to have blue here. Then it will be green and then yellow. So prospectively how they fit. So this gives me that distance things. Now my second one is going to be values. So if I take red, real intense, I start fading all these other colors out to where this is a pale blue back here, almost a gray blue, then I've got how it fades in distance. Over here, I want to keep it away, but I've got textures. So I got heavy textures over here of red, and I go back and I'm getting less textures to the point where this back here, this blue, is more of just a faded, dull, flat blue, but kind of grayish blue. You don't want to have a lot of details in there. You don't want to have any textures in there, and that gives you the idea between how many miles back into the canvas you want to go. So these are things that I've practiced over the years, and these are things that work really well. You can always apply them. Type of brush stroke, if you look here, all the brush strokes kind of even right now. So I'll be smoothing out some things back here with some light colors, so it'll dull it back. And I will be doing some more, but I wanted to make a video this morning, 26 minutes. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry if you watch this and you picked up a few ideas. But another thing I want you to notice, again, no matter how you work, you always want to make sure it stays consistent. Okay, consistency is the name of the game. Not the idea that, wow, I feel like I'm going to change the colors to this time, or change the colors to that time. But what it does do is it helps you understand that if you break up your working day, also if you break it up short term, you're going to see more in your painting what you've missed, what you need to do, what you need to correct. So that follows my last component, which is the 320 rule, which is 3 minutes at the easel, 20 minutes back. You don't spend a long time to it. And paintings are always finished at 50 feet. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you don't view a piece of artwork when you're walking right up on top of it. You never walk into a gallery. You never walk on the street. You don't see anything that's this close. On your phones you do, but never a painting in real life. And that's what makes them so amazing, because you're looking and you go, holy crap, that looks pretty cool. Well, when you step up to it and you go, hold a second, it's all these hash marks. What the? So you have 3 different types of work in each piece. You got photorealism, 50 to 100 yards back. 10 yards, you probably have, 50 yards, you got photorealism. 25 yards, I would say, you have started getting into realism. Then 10 yards, you're probably starting to see a little detail, so you're probably starting to go impressionistic. And by the time you get up to it, then you're pretty abstract. Because if you really just take this like this, it's all abstracted out, right? You don't really see that. You see the eye, but when I go even closer, it starts getting abstract. So the further I go back, that starts blending together. And then if I go back here, you see a dog or a wolf or whatever. So hopefully this is some explanations. I hope everybody had a good morning. It's only 6 o'clock. I've been up since 4. And I've been watching this thing called Portrait Artists of America, or Portrait Artists of the Year. And I'm going to go back to watching that, have a little more coffee. And who knows, I may come up with another video a little bit later. But this may be my day's work. So keep that in mind. But see, that's laziness on my part, because I know that I should be doing more. I know. So I've got a bunch of canvases in here with a whole bunch of pigs I want to get done. So I probably just sketch those out, call it a day. Look at my elk, which I think I can turn you, or I actually, let's do this. Oh, come on. Oh, sorry about that. I'm going to put you on pause and turn you. Okay, that's a watercolor, and that's one I'll be working on too. So you can see it's still in the work process, but it's going to be kind of a neat one, but I've still got to finish it. And I've finished one similar to it about a month ago, I think, or about a month and a half ago, and I sold a ton of print off that. So I will post these finished as I'm going, and then if you want one, just contact me here at the studio, which is 480-764-0422. You can message me here on Facebook or YouTube, where I'm on my channel, and everybody paint.